Good evening. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a personal experience of mine and how it relates to the research that I currently find myself doing. And to do this, I'm going to take you far away from the marine realm. And as you might have noticed, this doesn't exactly look like the ocean. So, my story takes place in the backwoods of northern Minnesota. And it all started at about 4 o'clock in the morning when my alarm clock rudely pulled me out of sleep. And I don't know about you guys, but personally, I'm not a morning person. I do not like waking up. But if there's one reason I'm going to wake up and sacrifice my sleep, it's for the ability to go out, go hunting or fishing. So to expand on that a little bit, for me it's really hard to disentangle hunting, fishing, and conservation. And that's probably counterintuitive to a lot of us out here today. But for me, I grew up wandering these woods. And this indeed is a picture of the pond that's on my family's property. And that pond represents a beautiful place to me. It's where I grew up. It's where I walked in the woods. It's where I have sacrificed countless hours to try to keep this in a pristine habitat that supports wildlife. So as I'm standing, getting ready, pulling my gear on, and pretty much steeling myself to walk out into the weather, which at the current moment is negative 15 degrees Celsius, I feel that rising bit of anticipation, partially because it's the thrill of the hunt, but more because I get to go and spend 10, 12, 14 hours outside. And you know, for me, that's probably even better than the thrill of the hunt. Because what other opportunities or activities do we have that we can just really go, stand, sit, observe, and be in the moment for that long? So I throw my gun over my shoulder and I start walking out to the place where I hunt, which is right on the edge of this pond. And as I'm walking out, I'm feeling a bit of thankfulness for the fact that my family has this property. I'm lucky enough to be able to go out on it, and the fact that they've maintained it over generation and generation and have handed it down for my use. And I hope someday I can do the same to my own children. As I'm getting closer to my stand, I've got this slight sense of foreboding. I just can't figure out quite what's going on. And as I walk up and I shine my flashlight into the stand, I realize there's actually somebody in my stand. And so I'm faced with this array of emotions. First and foremost, the fact that I feel cheated. I feel a bit of despair. I've spent hundreds of hours preparing this stand, the area around it, and maintaining the land around it to make sure that I have the opportunity to be there. This is private property. This guy has trespassed on my property. So of course my blood's also boiling a little bit. And my immediate desire is to just start yelling. But in this case, I managed to temper my emotions and calmly walk up and tell this individual, "You're trespassing on private property. Please leave." So the good news is that I'm standing here to tell you this story today. And I don't even have a single gunshot wound to show you for it. And by now you're probably asking, "Brock, why does this matter? You're telling us a hunting story from Minnesota. What does it have to do with marine context?" And the reality is, this situation is being experienced day in and day out by hundreds and thousands of fishers around the world. As they're on their way out to their local fishing spot, they are seeing poaching occurring. And in my research, we went out and we interviewed over 2,000 fishers. We found that almost half had previously seen poaching, but the most common response was to do absolutely nothing. And the reason they offered for doing nothing is because they wanted to avoid conflict. Now in my situation, I felt safe enough to be able to go up and ask somebody to leave my property, even with a gun on both of our shoulders. But in many other places of the world, this isn't the case. And to highlight this, I want to follow with the number 4. In 2017, 4 people were killed every day defending their environmental rights. So as we move forward into the future, we've probably all heard the stories about how our resources are declining. what this means is we're probably going to see more and more conflict over these resources, like I experienced in my own little hunting stand in the back corner of Minnesota. But the good news is that there's also plenty of tools that we can use to help resource users engage in their voluntary surveillance or their enforcement of their own patch. And there's plenty of programs that are currently out there, but can be levered further to allow these people to engage in their enforcement without putting them at risk. A great example of this is the Crime Stoppers program. This exists in 29 countries of the world. And what it does is it gives protection for people to tell or report poaching in a way that doesn't put them at risk. So, in summary, we're probably going to see a lot more Brocs running into poachers in their stand. But the good news is that we have the tools to move forward, to responsibly engage resource users, and to protect our own patch. Thank you.